today's subject is education, so I prepared a lot. The name I prepared PowerPoint is globalization and citizenship education, focus on Korean education environment. I prepared in two parts because my major is education, so I classified in inner factors and external factors. First part is inner factors. Inner factor: social, economic status, and multicultural education. I translated it is just and pictures. Korea and let me measure the extent to which textbook discuss the following groups as varying rights. In my opinion, expressing the interest about them and making mention of them would be globalization education, because students can recognize of their existence through the potential educational curriculum. 잠재적 교육과정. And teachers can teach about the notion in-depth lesson through the explicit educational curriculum. 명시적 교육과정. So, however, I have some question about the good multicultural education beyond just presenting their existence. I divided two parts, and part one is I researched the pictures in the textbook, focus on how prejudice against their socio-economic status of the Korean society is depicted. The first picture is Korean worker and foreign students. It is the picture in Korea textbook, and first picture, always blacks are foreign workers, and always whites are foreign students. It's print at all. And this part is about women. When I was young, there was only 5 or 6 students who have working mom. Do you know working mom? Hey, mom who working. And then a sample of happy home is depicted as depicted as some pictures that mother is housewife and father is salesman. However, because of the increasing number of the working mom and the students who are familiar with these pictures are increasing, including me. So this suggests there is a problem in recent current multicultural education. Do you know what picture is meant? First picture is always woman is nurse and always man is doctor. It changes, and she is a nurse, man nurse. And second picture means always mother is housewife and father just eating. Change it. Father wash dishes. And third picture means mother always cooking and go eat, but mother can eat together. It changes. I think it is amazing change in the Korean textbook, because we studied in these pictures of her. I know.
When you were young?
Yes, but I was a teacher in the secondary school. They study with this picture. Part 2 is sorry. It is so difficult subject because we are Koreans, South Korean, so we are well knowing about this special situation. Meaning of the nation in South Korea focuses on the specific situation divided state. Yes. So I searched the many textbooks. There is a content of textbook, future-oriented value for unification, 미래지향적인 통일관. As speaker. And so I prepared example of some units. First is song of you can read it. It is the I yes. Second is
Are you interviewing?
yes.
Everybody say liberal democracy, market economy. True.
Yes. So I prepared about the leisure coming from 인종차의식. Too many Koreans translated. Mount back to the pride of Korean Peninsula. Leisure spiritual roots. I translate. Mount Baekdu. What is the meaning of the Mount Baekdu for our nation? It is really in our textbook, and students can study through these papers. I will read it. I considered about the region of coexistence of multicultural education and homogeneous needs in Korea textbook. I agreed that inadequacies of nationalism to multicultural education. However, there is one part of Korean textbook which needs notion of Korean race. It is unified education. We have to do the unified education, 통일교육 to students, because we are in special situation divided states. 60 years has passed since we divided, and somebody who live in North Korea would be our sisters or brothers, and they have same appearance and languages and same cultures. If a lot of time has passed after surviving people who are bounded as separated family, 이상가족, do you know 이상가족? Would be reduced, and our culture would change it, and we would be different culture and different nation, different countries. However, we will be unified some days. I believe we will be some days unified, and Korean race would be last hope or last possibility of our unification, even though our ideologies are different. I will be a teacher, and as a teacher in the future, I believe the religion we are family is the best religion of our unification. Why we have to unify? It is we are family. There is a lot of religions, economic religions, and biologists, some many things. But I believe it is only things I have to teach my students. So I think the meaning of the race in Korea is different from the other Asian nations, and we need more time to prepare unification and that education for diversity. After the unification, Korean would have experience of accept, 수용의 단계, and tolerance and harmony. Then Korean multicultural education would be rich ideal state we want. It is my research. It is second grade and third grade, there are all have about contents about leisure communalism. 죄송해요. Leisure unity. 공동체? Because we have
Is it racial unity or racial unity?
네, 저 공동체라고. In I write this. We was born under the common ancestor and we have the same identity. So it explains the reason why we should unify.
Right, so the idea is that all creators come from one.
Yes, it is my.
You can stand next to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me my microphone. Yeah. All right. Ooh, high tech. Yeah, we didn't do this when I was young. All right. 편하게 앉으세요. Okay. Can you email this to me 나중에? Okay. Now. So I want you to be like this, or not. Okay. All right. Not. Okay. Now. Oh, by the way, don't try never to say in my opinion. I think this is right. Okay. Just say I argue. Like essay or job interview, you always have to be strong, confident. Okay. You never say, in my opinion, I should be hired. You're not gonna be hired, okay? And also, blah blah blah. I argue that expressing the interest. Anyway, you can read this later, because I made a lot of corrections. Now, Miss Shen made two claims, right? The first claim is that multicultural education. We should, education today we need to be more what? Well, the old model was what? Women and minorities were what? They were low status or high status? Yeah, very low status, right? Women always cooking, minorities always like 3D jobs, right? Now the new model is mom is I guess nobody cooks anymore. We just pet them. Okay? It's my right to it. I have to order a 닭쪽. 족발. Right? 족발. That's why the restaurant was so confused. I said, 닭쪽. So I finally called my wife. What was that again? So anyway, I finally got it. Anyway, so I bring the pet down and she eats just like the picture. Okay? And then I wash the dishes. But that claim is like, I said it was kind of a banal claim. I don't think anybody disagrees. Because you're basically saying textbooks should need to be more inclusive. You need to include everybody. Does anybody disagree? Any 남자? You say, go make me some food. No 남자. They're all scared of you, okay? But the second claim is a little bit more contentious. Contentious means people can disagree. Her second claim is what? Her second claim is that because of the need for unification, we need to promote what kind of education? We need to promote. Come on, tell me something. Yeah, in the back. What kind of education? We need to promote what kind of education? Yeah, well, not just nationalism, but ethno-nationalism. You understand? Ethno-nationalism is that we love this country because we're all the same ethnic group. We're all the same race. Right, so she's saying that we need to be ethno-nationalists. We need to promote racial education. So, I'm just going to call her like Hitler. Okay. Because Hitler said the same thing, right? But she's saying that we need to promote racial education because that is a basis. If the students no longer have racial education, well, maybe like, maybe like 90% of the textbook needs to be more multicultural, inclusive, democratic. Do you understand? Right, that's fine. But I wanted to critique that, okay? And so I need your email address, but what I did email everybody else was that your second claim is very interesting and contentious, but you want to address the strongest counter argument. So she's saying that the only way to help North Korea, to unify with North Korea, is through racial education. Okay? But what is an alternative form of education to help North Korea? So one model is that we should help North Korea because we are alive. We talked about this in the other class. Like blood is very important. We drink every night. Washes his hand. Does this understand? Do that in Latin? No? Do it in Latin? No? Doesn't anybody watch Green Card before? In the old movies, people were like slash their wrist. That's how they become brothers. In the Indian and South right? What? Maybe that's why we don't do that anymore. Or like when I was little, we started to skip. And then we did that. Or I was in the water polo team. And then we all drank out the same polo can. We all shared the same spit. But we were a good team. We were brothers. Right? No, when I was in LA, I went to education in Chicago, Florida. And when I was a young boy, we did water polo, we shared everything, we played polo. Anyway, that's the notion of brotherhood, sisterhood. We all have the same bodily joy, the same love, horse to sword. Okay? So Winchell's saying that that's what we need. Blood. Say blood. Vampire theory. Okay? Of national unification. But we can't have an alternative theory. Which is that we should help North Korea not because we're blood brothers, but because why should we help North Korea? For money? Money? Wow. Okay? Yes. To help the population. Yeah. So just right. So the point is that you can help North Korea not because of racial brothers, but just because they're human beings. We need help. Okay? And then for example, so we have like NGOs in Korea, like the guys like North Korea 1709, and we organize things at a certain time. Right? And he doesn't do that because he has the same blood, but he's Christian and believes in universal brotherhood. So you can actually make a counter argument that maybe instead of like racial unity, maybe just we should help them because they're 불쌍해, they're pathetic, and we don't necessarily have to be one nation, but we just want them to live under a good government. You understand? Right. And so that is a counter argument that it's not so important that North Korea and South Korea is one nation. It doesn't matter if it's one nation, two nations, or three nations. 옛날에 we used to be three nations, right? We were actually bigger. We controlled Manchuria. That was our third nation. Okay. But the main thing is the main question is not like unification, but the main question is like governance. They need to live under a good government where they can be happy and prosper. So that would be the counter argument. You understand? That democracy, liberal democracy is more important than racial unity. Do you disagree? Do you think racial unity is more important than democracy? No, the point is that this is something I mentioned in the other class. A lot of students, when they write essays, they write it like summaries. It's like 2 or 3 summaries in one paper. Okay? So 10% of the textbook that talks about unification, that section used to be racial community. Okay? So in a way, these are kind of two separate arguments. So my question is, why don't you talk about the most interesting part, which is that 10%, right? So your argument is that to promote unification, we need to continue racial education when we talk about North Korea. Okay? So that's your claim. Address the strongest counterclaim. The strongest counterargument is that there might be a different way. Look at an example of Germany. German unification is not necessarily based on racial unity. It's also based on things like, we believe in liberal democracy, and people, if they want to vote to unify, then we're unified. If they vote to divide, then we're divided. It's like Scotland. Okay? Scottish people voted to unify or divide. They voted to unite, right? They voted to keep the union. Okay? And so, liberal democracy means let's do what the people want. Okay? As opposed to doing something because we're the same race. So if a majority of North Koreans and South Koreans, if they do want to unify, then that is a prerogative as democratic citizens. But then if you really believe in democracy, that means that anybody who lives in South Korea, anybody who lives in North Korea, they should all be allowed to vote. Not just because they're the same race. You understand? So like Sam Ochiri will have the right to vote, whether to unify, if he becomes a citizen. You understand? Right. So I'm just saying I'm just kind of pushing you a little bit, okay? Because what you told me is what I hear 90%, and I hear this all the time among Korean educators, like, oh, we want to be more liberal and democratic, but we need to make this big exception. Okay? That's the common sense. So, a good essay, we're explaining why everybody thinks that way. An outstanding essay would say, everybody thinks that way, but I disagree, and this is why. Okay? Or, even if I agree, I can see that there's a counter argument for that. Okay? So I'm going to address the counter argument as well. Even if I do not agree with this counter argument. You understand? So I'm just pushing you to write more interesting, more innovative essays. Think outside the box. You understand? Okay, then you'll be a good teacher. I spit, now you're my sister. She didn't know. Okay. Oh, the second thing is that you mentioned that you want to be a teacher. Has anyone heard of Democracy Prep in New York City? Does anybody read Wall Street Journal? All you socialists. Anyway, so there was this one white guy, he came to Korea, and he loved Korea, he loved Taekwondo, and so when he came back to New York City, he created this charter school, okay? And the students are like 70% black or Hispanic, but they all learn Taekwondo, and they all learn how to speak Korean. And they're the #1 charter school in New York City. Okay? And so I thought this was kind of an interesting example how you don't have to be, you don't have to be racially Korean to become Korean. It's like Semochi, right? You can be black or Hispanic, but still learn Korean. Okay? Anyway, so it's the #1 charter school for poor kids in New York City. And then there was this Korean teacher, because it's very hard to find a job as a teacher in Korea. Did you find a job yet? Okay. Anyway, try to find a job, but if you cannot find a job, work in America. There's a big teacher shortage, especially in unfair areas. Okay? So Democracy Prep is kind of in a black and Hispanic neighborhood. So my friend of a friend, let's just call her Miss Kim. Okay? She applied. Well, she interned in New York, and she worked really hard, and so she was able to use her IMMEC to get the job at Democracy Prep. So now she's a teacher there. She got her H-1B visa. Oh, that's so cool, huh? So anyway, that's something that you might want to do someday. Okay, so take advantage of different opportunities. If you cannot find a job in Korea, go somewhere else. Yeah, open your mind. Okay, that was the first essay. Okay, moving on. And your English is good. You speak like another you speak like an FOB in America. That's a joke. Like, fresh off the boat. Okay. We have many jokes like that. Fresh off the boat, fresh off the plane. There's an SOB for still on the boat. Okay. All right. Next paper is oh no, that was other class. Okay. My next paper is German immigration. Why did you email to me so early? Oh, okay. I graded it for nothing. Okay. Alright. Then let's move on. Okay. Ooh, K-pop. Okay. 조사해. Come on up. Who's Miss Cho? Is that you? Ooh, how dramatic timing. Come on up. This is your classes, right? 너무 멋있다. Okay. Were you like counting? K-pop stars, come back down to earth. Okay. Can you discuss your essay? Or you're too tired? Okay, well let's help her, okay? I wrote some comments. She's saying that, well basically, who read K-pop? Why? Who read education? Who didn't read? Okay. Yeah, you need to read. Okay, you're supposed to read 2 out of 3. Okay? Anyway, so Miss Cho, she read about the K-pop. And she thought they're kind of like, come back. So you thought they're kind of smart or micha? The parents are smart or they're kind of crazy? Okay, so they're not very realistic, okay? She's saying that in my opinion, academies for future K-pop stars are just another example of this Korean blind pursuit of success. They're no different from Korean parents' irrational zeal for private tutoring. Okay? Let me see now. But she said, and then your argument is that, shh, pay attention, okay? So the basically article talks about all these parents who are spending big money for K-pop 학원. Now you have 학원 to be a K-pop star, okay? And Emily also wrote about this, right? Okay, so maybe we can just go through it together. And so the parents think that, why are the parents doing this? Why are the parents doing this? Why? Yeah, do you think it's a means for success? Because right, they think their kids are idiots. They cannot go to a good university. You can go to some university, but you cannot go to a good university, okay? And they think that my kids cannot go to a good university, it's not worth going for. Okay? So they now go to something else, such as being a K-pop star. Okay? And they think that there's a lot of opportunity to be a K-pop star or a small opportunity. They think there's maybe a lot of opportunity, right? And they think that, if my son becomes a K-pop, then you give a good life. And they think, and why do they think that way? Because they're watching what? They're watching these. Yeah, well, and also they're watching these TV shows, like news shows, right? And then there was this one example where some of the K-pop groups went to Europe, okay? And then all the Korean media said they conquered Europe. They're like the new Hitler or Napoleon. Okay, they conquered Europe. Okay? Yes. They're like the warriors. Okay?
Of course they own a lot of money.
Actually, I want to go back to that a little bit later because according to Sui, the author, did they really conquer Europe? No, because how many fans did they get in Europe? They only had like Yeah, they only have 14,000. They had 2 shows, 7,000 each. Is that Conquering Euro? No, that's actually a very small concert. You only have 7,000 people. You know, one football game in America, college football, we have 70,000. 70,000. Yes, unless you go to Michigan, you have 100,000. That's every Saturday. Okay, every Saturday you have 70 to 100,000 people for any like Big Ten, Pac-10 game. Okay, so 7,000 is nothing. That means you're like a loser football team, or maybe high school. Okay, but you know, but when the K-pop movement to Europe and they got 7,000 people, they thought, oh, they must be the new Napoleon. They're gonna conquer Europe. Anyway, so the media really like exaggerated, right? And because the media like exaggerated, people thought, ooh, this is like the new global trend. There's all these opportunities. We better run.
But it's
be a
true
kid.
that the K-pop is really famous in Southeast Asia.
Right? They're famous, but the question is, will they make a lot of money?
Yeah.
Right?
But there are like news that that girls' generation or like the super show, the famous K-pop idols like buy very big, expensive apartments, cars.
I guess the question is like, but how much income they're earning? Like, are those cars and houses were they bought by the agencies so they can get good image? The question is, how much do they have in savings? Because if you look at the total amount, remember a couple of weeks ago, somebody wrote an essay about, you know, like K-pop versus games, right? And who makes more money? It was actually what? Games, right? Yeah. Who wrote that essay? Yeah. What's your name? Jongha. So do you remember how much games made? Okay, find it. So Jongha was basically saying that, like, you know, games, Korean games, like electronic games, or they're 11 times. Do you know the total money amount? Okay. So like 11 times bigger. That means that K-pop is like just less than 10%. Okay. So the total pot of money is actually fairly small compared to other exports. Okay. And within that small pot, only a few can actually make money. And so maybe like, you know, people like Super Junior, maybe they're just like one of the very few. Okay. Maybe like 1 out of 10 actually make money. Maybe like 90% loses money. Do you understand? Right. Because a lot of times like singing, acting, you know, those kind of professions, most people actually lose money. Right. Because you have to spend a lot of money to actually perform. But not that many people are popular. That's one. And also, you're not popular for a long time. Right? You're only popular when you're young and good looking, right? But you know, when you become old and bad looking, then you can no longer be K-pop. So that means that they only have maybe like 5-10 years, right? It's very different from other groups like Beatles or Rolling Stones because Beatles is not pretty boy, and Mick Jagger is not pretty boy, right? They actually like people like Paul McCartney for his songs, right? But, or like John Lennon, right? But can you imagine, like, are you going to listen to like Super Junior when he's like 60? You won't be junior anymore. You'll be like super senior. You understand? Right. Right, so the very way they market them is it just limits their career. Right. So anyway, so blah blah blah. Okay. And then also like we talked about innovation that basically are copying the boy bands in the 1990s, like Backstreet Boys. Okay, now, so you need more sites and evidence for your argument, and also, what is your main claim? Your main claim is what? Like this path, right? Yeah.
Because I mean, like success of idol stars is kind of unique.
That's fine, but that's almost like a summary. That's what the author is saying, right? This is almost like a okay. So what can you say that is interesting? You understand? So you're writing an essay about this K-pop phenomena, right? You're writing about this topic from the reading, right? So what can you say that is interesting? What can you add? Right, what can you add? You see? Maybe one thing that you can add is you talked about these online things, right? That blah blah blah. Yeah. So you're saying maybe one interesting thing that you're making is that online people like netizens they're kind of so they believe in the myth or they do not believe in the myth. Yeah, because you're saying there are these postings online, right? So these netizens, these online postings, what are they saying?
They're just saying that many people are using this myth, so they should know that there are a lot of scams targeted on such people. So I don't know if the netizens all think that K-pop stories is a myth or not,
But they think some of the hagwons are a myth. Okay, so some of the hagwons are scams.
no, not hagwons. It's just really some people are not really hagwon.
Oh, like these Asians
Just cheaters.
cheaters. So they.
Cheat money to get money.
And so what do these cheaters try? They try to they say that I will train you to be a
I'll
K-pop
train
stan.
you and you should give me money first and just fly.
Just fly away. Oh, okay. So netizens are saying that there are these scammers and cheaters out there, so be careful. Okay. So maybe that's something you can address. Okay. Maybe there might be something new. That yes, because of this mythology, so many people are desperate to be a K-pop star, that they're prey, they're vulnerable to these scammers. Okay. So there might be an interesting essay. One. Okay. Another interesting essay might be, what is the role of government and the media? Okay. Because the author Swing talked about how the government kind of blows it up, right? And the government subsidizes, gives a lot of money to promote like K-pop. Okay. And then and maybe you can talk about is a government role in K-pop, is it beneficial or is it kind of hurtful? You see, that can be a second topic. Okay. The main thing is write something interesting. Expand on your evidence. Expand on your example. Okay, such as this. Okay. Actually, Emily talked about the role of government, right? Can you come up? Okay, you can rest. Thank you. All right. Emily talked about government in Korea versus Sweden. Yay. Has anyone heard of Spotify? Koreans? Yes or no?
No, you don't have it here. That's what I
Oh, they don't have it
realized.
here?
No,
Okay.
that's why you might not understand. No, they don't have it.
Maybe soon, someday.
Yeah, hopefully it's a good
Okay.
thing.
Okay, so
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
so what's your
Spotify
say?
is a music service. It's in Europe and America, I think, basically some Asian countries, and it is from Sweden. Yes or no? Was it Sweden who invited it?
So you can basically download.
Yeah, you can stream it.
Okay.
So you have it on your iPhone and you have it on flight mode and you can stream all the music and you pay certain amount for like 10 euros a month for the same. Yeah, that's enough. So you can stream all the music you want for a special amount.
Alright. So in Europe, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a similar service in Korea? How much do you pay? Mana or Chana or no money? Chana. What's it called? Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Korean? Is Hello in other countries? Or just Korean?
It's actually that's a weird thing. They don't have like, or I haven't found that. That's another topic. So anyway, it's about how I have compared how the Swedish government, because okay, Sweden talks about this thing that the kids can go to yeah. I see academy if they're not good enough to go to to university. Like the parents can pay a lot of money to go there, like we talked about as a dream, and they think that their kids will be famous K-pop stars and they will have a lot of social status and economic health and wealth. And so the government, they they give money to this kind of project. They help promoting K-pop and K-pop stars and saying that's a global industry and that shows how good Korea is and it promotes the country. It's a lot of money, as we read about before. And then I compare that to Sweden, because in Sweden, education is not all. I mean, it's definitely a better thing. It's always better to have a university degree, but it's not necessary. You can definitely succeed without it. It's harder, but you definitely can. So I wrote about how, for example, Spotify, it was like, and I'm not sure if the guys who invented Spotify, maybe they have a university degree, but that's not important in this case.
It's not relevant.
No, it's not relevant. But so the Swedish government supports a lot of young people to start up their own businesses. Like you can rent money, or you can have like financial support to start up your own business. Or if your idea is good enough, you can make money of that, and you can promote Sweden in that way, like Spotify. Like look at our great
And also
ideas.
like Minecraft, right?
Sure. I don't know. That's
Okay.
true. So that's what I'm comparing, like how you can promote your country without university degrees.
You know how much Spotify is worth these days?
A lot of money. I don't know how much, but I think it's a lot of money.
Right. Is it in the Korean playing Minecraft? It's in Korea, right? Right. Because I know that company is worth $2 billion.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
Spotify might be worth $2 billion too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Think
go on.
about it. Yeah. So, but anyway, I'm talking about through the essay about where you put your money, basically. Like, what kind of sacrifices do you need to do? Because, of course, it's a great idea that we have Spotify and we have all these new businesses for young people and stuff. But of course, it costs. Like, you have, for example, you have tax reduced if you have your own company. You know, tax reduces. But that money could, of course, have been used to better hospitals, better education, and stuff like that. So you always have to take money from somewhere and put it somewhere.
That's fine.
So that's basically it, right?
Yeah, you can be next to me. So anyway, Emily's making kind of two separate claims. So the first is comparing Korea versus Sweden, right? So in a way she's saying like, the Korean government, spends all this money on K-pop. In a way she's saying like, you're crazy, okay? Look at Sweden. We spend our government spends money on, developing new businesses, small businesses. And I think Emily thinks that's probably the more smart thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not comparing to.
Right. So, but actually, I think most Koreans will agree with you. Do most of you agree that it's better to invest money in small business or invest more money in K-pop? Who says K-pop? Who says like small business? Okay, so nobody says K-pop, right? I guess none of you went to K-pop 학원, huh? All right. Anyway, I guess my comment is that actually most Koreans, they actually agree with you, the importance of investing, developing like new businesses, small businesses. But I guess the problem is that, so the government spends a lot of money on subsidies for SME, small, medium enterprise. But what is the problem? The problem is that, the problem is what? So like a lot of young people, smart people, what? You want to work for SME? Yes. Okay. She says yes to SME. How about you? Samsung or SME? Samsung. She says Samsung. She's crazy. Okay. So actually, what's your name? Sari. If we had more people like Sari, we'd be like Sweden. But we don't. We have more people like her. Okay. What's your yes? kind of. Okay, right. So the comment is that, well, maybe Asia's more hierarchical, more collectivist, whereas Europeans might be more individualist. That might be true, but then there's also like legal and institutional incentives. Okay, so I gave you this, so I gave you a site. Okay, and then currently the government offers more than 160 incentives. So the government gives a lot of benefits like money and less regulations for SMEs, small and medium enterprise. Okay, but what happens is that this is many economists argue that this is actually counterproductive because many small businesses are dependent on government funding, and so they don't want to grow because if they become a big enterprise, they lose all the benefits, and they have to fall under like 100. They have to, so they lose, and they have to, and they get all these new regulations, 190 new regulations. Do you see? So that means that small businesses want to remain small businesses. So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't explain everything by culture. Okay? You also have to look at legal and institutional structures. So in the Korean case, from a small businessman's perspective, I don't have any incentive to go big. Because if I go big, I lose all the government funding, the subsidies, and I have to incur all these new costs, new regulations. Okay? And so it's not just because of culture. Okay? So maybe if government really wanted to be more like Sweden, then they can be more like the old government of Sweden, right? The conservative government just cut taxes, cut regulations, which are encourage new entrepreneurs to work hard and become big. Okay? But these days, if Korean entrepreneurs, if they have a big dream, they want to build a big company, they don't build it in Korea. They go to places like California or Singapore because they think Korea there's too much taxes and regulations. Okay? Anyway, so that's claim number one. Okay? So she's saying like, why is the Korean government and so it's not because they don't want to support small businesses, but maybe they're doing it in a very unproductive way, counterproductive way. Her second claim is, well, this is a minor claim, but she said, well, supporting small businesses by cutting taxes, that sounds good, but it might be bad for society. Okay? Because that means you have less money for government, you have to reduce government services, such as healthcare. So that's bad for the most weak sectors of society. Okay? And then my comment to you is that again, anytime you make a claim that is contentious, contentious means that people might disagree. Okay? Then give me some evidence and maybe address maybe some counter arguments. Alright? So what is the strongest counter argument for that? Because okay, so let's say one claim is that if you increase taxes, increasing taxes will help the poor, will help the weak sectors of society. The counter argument might be what? The increasing taxes might actually not help the poor. It might actually hurt the poor. How? Why?
Because you have to pay a lot of taxes for the money they earn, and they have to, and also like private, like you could have private sectors that could compare programs and stuff like that.
That's partly it. But the big economic argument is that if you put too much taxes on businesses, you're going to have less employment.
Yeah.
Right. They make this argument in France a lot. That France has too many rules, too many taxes, so companies they just don't want to hire workers. Okay. But the old government in Sweden, you had the election this year or last year?
This year, like 1 month ago.
Oh, okay.
So it's really hard to say.
You're like so excited. Yay. She's socialist. She probably spit on Kim Jong-un.
But I wouldn't say he's a socialist. I would say he's a fake
socialist. Okay, so so you're not a spit brother like Kim Jong-un.
No way.
Okay. But the point is that the old government in Sweden, they thought that if you really want to help poor people, you should cut taxes and help business. Because that means poor people can get what? Get a job, right? So the best way to help poor people is not through government services, but to increase the private sector so they can get good jobs.
They also privatize, like they didn't just make business like private sector. They also made like hospitals as private businesses.
Okay.
So that's a really big problem because now hospitals act like businesses, which means it's not so good for hospitals to have poor clients. They want to make rich people come there, pay a lot of money, so the poor people gets worse health care than the rich
I think
ones.
that's a good argument, but maybe you can put that in a separate essay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So the first one can be like, why is Korea and Sweden different, right? So is it culture, or is it just a legal system? Do you understand? Okay. Another essay can be like, what are the pros and cons of like, these government regulations and taxes, right? Maybe some regulations and taxes are bad for business. Are bad for equality. Maybe some are good for equality.
Yeah.
Okay. And so again, for that, so you need to give me very specific arguments and examples. So like what she said, right? Like if you privatize hospitals, that means they only want rich patients. It's bad for the poor. Okay. That means maybe you need to kind of revise incentives. So some governmental systems they privatize, but they give extra money every time you get a poor patient. So it gives incentive for hospitals to recruit more poor patients. Do you understand? So there are ways to make the free market work. Okay? Because free market basically means you have national markets. They want to make profit, right? So you need to make it profitable to serve, educate, treat weak sectors of society. So you just have to be smart. Okay? Alright, thank you, Emily. Yay! So we're not gonna talk about German's paper. Okay, I guess we'll talk about it Friday. Alright, then let's move on. Okay. Ooh. Did we talk about Sahe? No, we talked about Sahe. Oh. We have a little time. Let's talk about your paper. Okay. Because I don't think we're gonna have time on Friday. Yeah, we have a lot of other volunteers for Friday. So you're talking about Korean professional multiculturalism, right? So imagine you're doing a job interview, right?
Sure.
And then explain your paper. Don't read it. That's boring.
No,
Okay.
I just I didn't base in the reading. Just I based on comments here in class that we did the week before about multiculturalism here, and then I compared the new wave of immigrants that is getting into the U.S. now, that it's more prepared and with more studies, and I put the example of 5 or 7 Indian CEOs of big U.S. companies that are running there, and the new Asian wave of they are attracted by the U.S. government
Right.
giving them opportunities.
Right. So Mr. Romero's mentioning that he says a lot of smart Indians come to America. Smart Indians like who? Like the presidents of what companies? Anybody? You have these smart people from India who are the presidents of Pepsi, Citibank, Microsoft, and the chief prosecutor of New York. These are just super Indians. Better than the Cowboys. Right? Okay, they're just super Indians. Imagine if Koreans were president of Pepsi, Microsoft, Citibank, and the chief prosecutor of New York. Super Koreans, right? So you have these interesting examples. So from your examples, you want to generate a claim, right? So what's your claim?
My claim is that maybe Korea can have a benefit by introducing these kind of immigration policies to your country. I don't know if it would be really difficult or not for a really smart super Indian guy to run a Korean to run a Korean company or not. It's just my suggestion.
Sure. The first claim is not that interesting. Your first claim is that we should encourage more smart migrants. Does anybody disagree? No. I think every government wants that.
Yeah.
I mean, you want You want idiot migrants? No, you want smart migrants, right? You actually want smart, high-educated migrants. But what's the problem? The problem is that if you're like super smart, you don't want to come to Korea. You want to go where? Well, not just America. You want to go to New York, Chicago, California. You don't want to what?
Not to Nebraska.
Yeah, but they don't want to go to Mississippi. I'm just saying, like, America is a big country. That there's very specific places in America they go to. They never land in places like Mississippi or Kansas, okay? Except Dorothy. But so that's part number one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I understand this a little bit. Like,
And so the more interesting question, the more interesting thing might be
Okay.
like, how come these super smart Indians, super smart people are not coming to Korea?
okay.
Do you see? And what can we do to attract those super smart people?
Okay.
You understand?
Sure.
So if you wanted to help, Brunel's argument, what can you say? Any ideas? Any ideas? You wanna come up? Are you a super Indian? Okay. You don't have a secret shirt? Okay. Right. So Jeffrey is saying that basically that, Jeffrey? Oh, Jeffrey, right. Jeffrey is saying that, like smart people, they want to go where they can have the best opportunities, the best returns for their investment, because education is very expensive. I told you about Cornell, right? I tutor my student who went to Cornell. He's paying how much? He's paying, his tuition alone is $50,000 a year for architecture. So 4 years of $200,000 just for tuition. We're not talking about like living costs, okay? So these like super Koreans, these super wannabe super Koreans, wannabe super Indians, they're investing a lot of money and energy and time, okay? And they choose to invest in America or maybe England, right? Because they think this is where I can get the most opportunity. And so, the question is, how can Koreans persuade these super people to come to Korea instead? Okay?
Okay.
That's one interesting question. But the second question is that, well, another argument might be that, well, maybe we don't have to. Okay? Because actually Korea does attract a lot of migrants, but they tend to be what? People from rich families? No, they tend to be from poor families, right? But then you can say that, oftentimes, because like America used to be the same way. America didn't always attract the richest families. They went to places like England, right? We often attracted a lot of poor families, okay, like refugees. But but the families they work hard, they stabilize, and maybe the first generation were like shopkeepers and factory workers. But the second and third generation, they became like doctors and lawyers and inventors, okay? And so if you look at it from that kind of a long-term model, it means that instead of trying to attract the super smart people, it means that let's see who wants to come to Korea, and then let's make their children smart, okay, or their grandchildren smart, okay. So let's invest in the people that we have now, as opposed to trying to attract new people.
Right.
Yeah. So that can be a different point.
Okay.
So anyway, so just think of some interesting things you want to make. Okay. So you understand, right?
Sure.
So you need to go beyond. You need to attract smart people. Everybody agrees. The question is how.
Yeah.
Okay. How can we attract smart people, or how can we make the people who are already here smarter? Okay. And then I think that's a very big challenge for many countries. including Korea, right? We're already attracting a lot of migrants. How can we make them smart? How can we make them productive? Okay.
But as a future, right? In the future generations, then the foreigners that are coming here right now, you know,
Well-
it's like a 30-year plan, or I don't know, 50.
Well, it's always a long-term
Yeah.
plan. You can make anybody a little bit smarter, right? But then I guess you can make a bigger impact with the children,
Yeah.
right? Because at least the lot of like the people who come when they're older, like they have limited language, they have limited skills, so it's hard for them to rise up a lot. Okay, but if they come as kids, they have more room for mobility, right? Is that your experience with migrants in Europe? That so as a young people, right? They have more potential to contribute. Okay, so the question is, how can I create a system where they can be really productive? Okay. Because some people like really criticize like the French model, because in France they say like we have a lot of these young people, second and third generation, they're very alienated, and they're kind of alienated from the system. They don't have jobs. They often like they riot, they steal. Okay, and maybe because the system is bad. Okay, again because they don't have jobs. Maybe we need to create a system where they can have jobs, so the young people will be more productive. Okay. Anyway, so I'm just saying it's an interesting topic. So write on like an interesting thing, give me some interesting examples. You have something you want to say? Come on up. Yeah. Thank you. You have something to say to me? Yes, you can. Or to the class.
No, what you said just now about France, like you have that in the Netherlands too, like the second and third generation, for example, Moroccan people and Turkish people. The Moroccan and Turkish people, they were brought to the Netherlands to like help building the Netherlands more, and now like their kids are like when you hear the news, it's always like Moroccan people doing this bad thing, Turkish people doing this bad thing, like those kind of things. But like it's always like listening to the bad side of it, because there's a lot of like good side of Moroccan people and Turkish
Okay.
people. Like there are, in my school, like most of in my university, like most of them are Moroccan people actually. I don't think it's a system or something like that, because I see a lot of them who are doing good. It's just more like
The media.
exactly the media is
Okay.
closing them from doing certain things, and also it's just the way the person is himself, because you have the choice to decide who you want to like hang out with and which way you want to go in life.
That's fine. So you can say like one key factor is the media. Okay. But in the American context, other key factors are like if you have like employment and also like family. So people who are employed they generally don't commit crime. And also people who come from stable families, they don't commit crime. But if you don't have a job, you don't come from a stable family, you're very likely to commit crimes.
What do you mean when you say the family?
Like two parents. So right now, like 1 out of 3 black males, they go to jail. Is that a lot or a little? That's a lot. One out of you meet a black person, 1 out of 3 chance is gonna go to jail for something. Okay. And usually the ones who go to jail are the ones like they don't have a job, they don't come from stable families, they don't really have fatherhood figures. Okay.
Yeah.
And so as a society, if you want to really like integrate migrants and minorities, you have to think about how can I promote jobs, how can I promote like stable families.
But like, I don't really think that you have to have a father and mother in order to have the same family, because like the divorce rate in the Netherlands is so high, and like still people are doing good, and I also don't think it has to do with money, because like it's not
No.
like I come from a wealthy family or
No,
something.
but
So
employment. It doesn't mean you're rich or poor, but you need to have a job.
like myself have a job with my parents.
Right, somebody needs a job.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just saying that many social scientists in America have done these big studies that shows a very strong correlation between employment, family status, and like jail time, going to jail. Okay? So I'm saying that I think media is a big factor.
Yeah.
I think media is a big factor, but then there are these other factors that that is also discussed in the literature. And a good essay will discuss all these different factors.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple of points. Come on up. Why we? It's okay. You look good on camera. Hurry up, because we need to finish this discussion. And Hetty wants to talk about chicken. Yes.
Like what you said about the
You have to have
I didn't say
no,
I.
but
So
I know
some
you're saying
people,
that
right?
these studies have been done and stuff, but I think there's two major problems with that.
Okay.
The first one is that if you say that 1 in 3 black people is like this, or if you make that stereotype, then people will start to believe it. So
But that's not a stereotype. That's
yeah, but you can't say
it's statistically true that
they
one of
say
the.
that it's statistics, but how much of America's statistics can you actually believe?
Oh.
Yeah, and also another thing is that you have politicians, and they are employed, they are wealthy, but they are probably one of the most corrupt people out there. So you can't say that people with jobs and people that are employed are less likely to commit crime. They're less likely to maybe get caught,
Okay.
but they do commit crimes.
Okay.
And MPs, politicians would be a number one example because they run the system, especially from where I'm from, they run the system and stuff. They have jobs, you look up to them, they have status, they have everything, but they are so corrupt, and that is a crime.
So you're saying there's a weak correlation or no correlation
I think
between
it doesn't.
employment and
Because I think
crime.
there are people out there that have my best friend, for example. Her parents got divorced at a young age. She lives in a council estate, but she's at Cambridge University. She pushed herself. She did all of that and and she's black. So you can't say there's this stereotype that goes on that people are like this. Just because a study did that and said it, how much can you even trust that study? You can't.
Sure.
You can't say it's sure. Because the study that you're saying, 1 in 3 black people goes to prison, that's because they've been to prison. So if that was happening, people that aren't black, were they prosecuted? Did they go to prison or did they not? Did they escape jail? Does that make sense?
Sure.
So you can't base it on these statistics and facts because it's not. I
But-
don't think it's that legit.
But do you think there is a correlation between employment and crime?
Yes, there is in some sense, but not necessarily in that sense. If I was to base it on a council estate and I counted the number of houses and the number of people and the number of people in those houses, how many of those are working, how many of those weren't, and how many of those actually committed crime, then yes, maybe you can sort of make a study and see if there's a correlation, whether it's negative or positive. But until you do that in one specific area instead of stereotyping and generalizing, you can't make a claim.
Okay, that's fine. So did you hear that? She's saying we should not generalize. Okay. Anyway, but people, if you're interested in multiculturalism, I guess the issue with policymakers is that policymakers always have to kind of generalize. They have to make general policy. So they have to have some general assumptions. So if you believe that Korea is becoming a very multicultural, very diverse society, and if the people are worried about increasing crime, many people are worried about increasing crime, then you will need to rely on studies to show how can I reduce crime. Okay? And so that's why these studies are important. And hopefully you can find a better study to show that it's not just employment, it's these other factors too. Okay? Anyway, because that's why you need really good social science studies to inform policymakers. Okay? So if the policymakers really believe that jobs and current families are important to reduce crime, then they'll promote them. Okay? But if you find a better study that says no, these are not important, there are other factors that are important, then you can persuade the policymakers to focus on those other areas. Yeah. They come. I just said in the American context because they study white people and black people, and they compare single parent moms versus not single parent moms, right? And then there was a big correlation. This is they've been studying this for a long time, okay? And that's fine, but I don't think they're focusing on it. I think they're focusing on that's a different study topic. They were focusing on like working class people. And they're saying, you know, you focus on like working class people, black and white. Among that category, there's a strong correlation between employment, family status, and crime. I'm sure if you have a different study on like MPs, you can find other factors that explain why some MPs are corrupt, some MPs are not corrupt. But there would be a different study, okay? I'm just saying that before you criticize a study, do a better one, okay? So you can only beat an argument with a better argument, okay? All right.